I received a question from one of the subscribers to my channel. And the question was, do I expect there will be another crash? If you're a subscriber to the newsletter, you've already got my answer. But I wanted to share it widely to my subscribers on the video channel. The answer, in short, is there most certainly will be another crash. It's inevitable. Given human greed, it runs up and crashes. I did a little bit of flying, and in the test, one of the things we had to do is what's called a hammerhead stall. That's when you point the nose of your plane straight up and give it full power. And you keep going until finally the gravity exceeds the thrust from your engine, and you go into an absolute stall, which means you drop like a rock. And the purpose of the test was to be sure you didn't panic, because what you had to do is nose down the plane, which takes it seems like forever for it to finally nose down, because you got very few control surfaces that work while you're in a dead stall. But it does work, and then you, of course, you're already at full power, so you just ease the nose down and you'll recover. If you're high enough. If you're too close to the ground, then that's all she wrote. But anyway, the reason I brought up that little story is that's the way human nature is. I mean, the greed is just unlimited, which absolutely will cause another crash. So I've been through 3 major crashes, not recessions, but I would call them a crash in terms of the broad effect on the economy. And that was a crash of '87, and that one was brutal. It made 2008 look like nothing. Then there was the tech bubble, which is around 1999. And then after that was the housing bubble of 2008. If you haven't seen the movie Margin Call, it's a must see. You got to see that. It's a documentary on, or docudrama, based on the crash of Lehman Brothers brokerage firm in the housing crash. And in that, they address the dynamics of what causes such a crash, and human greed at its rawest. But anyway, so I wanted to talk about what I've learned through those crashes. The biggest learning experience was the crash of '87. I had a thriving business at that point in time. I was taking in about $450,000 a month. Well, I had a payroll of 28,000, not including myself, and 5,500 feet of prime office space. So when the crash of '87 came, I didn't see it. I just didn't see it. I thought the world was going to keep going forever, and therefore plowed every dime of my profits back into the business, which is a cautionary tale for anybody who wants to plow their dividends back into the stock. Don't ever do that. Take the cash and run. So at any rate, I lost that business. Had I put aside just 10% of my earnings into a reserve, I'd have weathered through that, and given the product, which was, I developed one of the first point of sale systems that was affordable by small businesses. And I had no competition. There just wasn't any. So we were closing contracts right and left. But at any rate, if I had put aside 10% because of my lead in that business compared to my competitors, IBM and National Cash Register. I would be, I don't know, a billionaire maybe by now, which would have brought its own set of problems, I'm sure. But anyway, the crash of '87 taught me that a lot in terms of cash management. After that, the only thing I financed was houses I lived in. Bought cars with cash, and I didn't know anything. My credit cards, what I put on credit cards was paid in full at the end of the month. So that was a great lesson. I mean, it was a hard lesson to learn, but it has stuck with me since then. And it has served me well. Then the next crash was the tech bubble. That one I saw coming. Being in the tech business, I mean, you had all these companies with huge ratings based on what they called eyeballs, or the number of people that went to their site. They had nothing. They owned nothing. They had no assets. So when that revenue dropped, they were just in the wind, and all the people who held the stock just lost their ability to sit comfortably. So I avoided that one, but I was pretty heavy into real estate trusts and mortgage companies. So the crash of 2008, I saw that coming. I mean, the housing prices had gotten to the point that a working person just couldn't afford a house. Just no way. I mean, they couldn't even buy a lean-to. So I knew that wasn't going to hold up, but I did not know that three of the companies, which I had rather substantial holdings in stock, were doing subprime loans. I'd never even heard of a subprime loan. Subprime loan. And the best education on that, here again, is that movie Margin Call, because they talked about the way they were layering in the bad loans with the good ones and bundle those in, creating a tradable security. And of course, that's gave leverage that was just, wow. When the crash came, that was terrible. So three of the companies I was invested in, had stock in, absolutely collapsed. My stock value went to zero. So at any rate, but lesson learned from the crash of '87, I had enough cash on hand to replace my losses in the market. So I just sat on the sideline for 6 months or whatever it took for it to bottom out or get close to bottom. And I bought into the market again. Oh, and by the way, my biggest loss in a company was what was considered a blue chip company. That was General Electric, GE. Wouldn't touch GE again ever. Their accounting practices are unconventional. In fact, I took a bigger loss in GE than I did in the three companies, mortgage companies who went belly up. But anyway, I had enough cash. I walked back into the market into some healthy stocks while they were close to the bottom. And within a year, not only had I recovered, but I was into a profit situation. But while I had been dabbling in selling covered options back in 2005, I really didn't get mainstream with it until Robinhood came on the scene and cut the commissions to zero. Until that time, I was making more money for TD Ameritrade than I was for myself. And that took a lot of incentive out of it. And it also restricted my how I sold, my strike prices and whatnot, because not only was there a pretty high commission on selling the contracts themselves, but if they were exercised, the assignment fee was egregious. I mean, it was like $20 a contract or some such. It was just, that just took all, that's when they took all your profits away from you. So Robinhood changed that equation. And as long as that holds up, this is the golden age for selling covered options. The other thing I like about selling covered options is the short window of risk exposure. On the whole, I'm selling 1 week options. So that makes it makes me very flexible. When you own large stock positions, you're like a big old ship trying to turn. You can only turn slowly. With options, every Monday, well, every Friday they expire, and every Monday I sell them again, and I can look at the market change and make determinations there. The other thing I did in terms of choosing a stock, which is HanesBrands International, is I wanted something with a fantastic balance sheet and a healthy market share. Well, as long as there's Hanes underwear, that company is going to make money. May not make as much during a recession, but they're going to make something. And so far, they've been able to support their generous dividend, which is another plus. So anyway, that's the stock I chose. Now, if all we men stop wearing underwear and go commando, then I'll change companies. But until then, I'm probably going to stick with that. And that goes a little bit against my grain because I have a lot of money, a lot of eggs in one basket, which goes against the wisdom of diversification. But, excuse me. But anyway, it's the best thing going. And at the end of each transaction set cycle, I'm always back in cash. So, which brings me up a really important thing. This is important. One of my followers, who is trying to mirror my trades, and they're doing quite well. They got much more money invested than I do. The biggest mental block in selling covered options is you see your liquidation value of your account go up and down, which doesn't matter. It really depends on how many contracts you can sell and can cover, and the revenue stream it produces, because it's all about the revenue. So to get over his mental block or whatever about that, he came up with an idea which I think is worth sharing, and one that I may follow. Actually, he has built up to the point where now he can cover 31 HPI contracts. So what he's doing is that at that settlement, he's placing 31 new contract orders, but any excess cash that's thrown off, he is moving into a savings account, which draws spit for interest. But the point is he wants to see that egg build and yet keep the 31 contracts. And that's the proof positive to him and in his mind that he is in fact making money selling stock options. But hey, that's not a bad plan at all. I do that in a more indirect fashion. I tend to draw money out of my account when I need it. Like this Friday, Thursday, I leave on a cruise in the Caribbean that is paid for by the profits I'm making in the stock option business. So you need to reward yourself, if for nothing else, just to keep from focusing too much on our greed. Okay, well, I guess that covers the subject, which, as I said, was prompted by some subscribers' question in the comment section on YouTube. Please, folks, if you got a question, ask. I'm not selling you anything. Never will sell you anything. I'm not looking for to monetize this channel. I'm doing this for two reasons. Number one, I think I've got an idea worth sharing. And secondly, I'm old and retired. I got the time to do it. One of the few benefits of getting old in retirement. I can do it from the comfort of my den. And my imagination has all the pictures of places I've been, things I've done. So it's pretty nice. I live in a nice retirement community with two 18-hole golf courses and all kinds of swimming pools, and hot tubs, and 250-seat theater. I could just go on and on. It's a beautiful place on 1,000 acres, and wildlife comes right up to your door, which is great unless it's an alligator. Then you got to watch out, just like you do on the market. You know, the alligators out there that will snap you up if you're careless. All right, I'm not going to bore you any further. Please subscribe, and don't hesitate to use the comment section to ask questions. I will do my best to answer them. Have a good Sunday.